So this is going to be a tutorial about using sub-emitters in particle systems. So first let's take our board image and put it into the scene. We will rotate that and we will scale it out. Let's add a physics 2D and a box collider. And that's it. We just want it to be solid. We don't need this to be moving around or anything. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a particle system. So game object, particle system, move that down on the screen closer to the board. And right now it's using the default particle. We don't want it to use that, we want it to use the bomb. So to do that we actually need to create a new material. So right click, create, material, we'll call it bomb mat. As you can see, there's little squares where you can drag and drop tiles, images rather. We'll drag and drop albedo. And for the shader, we're going to change it to sprite, and we're going to change it to default. So now we've taken an image and we've applied it to a material. Now that we've created our material, we can now apply it to a particle system. So click on the particle system, scroll down, expand renderer, and see where it says material. You're just going to drag and drop the bomb mat and put it right there. So now you're spawning bombs. Let's go to rotation over lifetime. Let's bump that up to 360. So we want these rolling around. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply gravity. So usually when you start modifying gravity, there's a little back and forth between lifetime versus speed versus gravity modifier, and it's hit or miss, it's trial and error. So as you can see, that really isn't much. That would be like if maybe you're doing like a little fountain of water coming out or something. So you can either change the modifier or you can change the speed if you want it to be moving faster. So that's not bad. Let's have it go a little bit longer though. So let's do speed 12. Alright. Now we really don't want it going off the screen just so we can see where everything is. So let's go to shape. And for the cone, you want to shrink this in a little bit. So now it looks like pretty much they're only ever so slightly going off. So we can bring this in a little bit. Okay. Now as you can see, they're falling through the floor, so collisions aren't working yet. So for the particle system, scroll down and go to collision. Unsurprisingly, click on world. It defaults to everything, but collision mode needs to be set to 2D. And boom, everything's bouncing. Now we've probably got a few too many on the screen at the moment, so let's go to emission and let's change that to 5. And also things are lasting too long, so start lifetime, let's make this 3 only. It's better. Now, alright, so that's basically the first step. You've created your particle system. It's spawning these bombs and they're bouncing when they hit. Now, they're not losing any momentum, so when you go to collision, you can go to dampen here. And again, it's just trial and error to see what creates the amount of dampening. So 1, no good. So let's try 0.1. Let's run it. That looks about right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding the sub-emitters. So we go to sub-emitters. And for collision, click on the little plus sign to create the first sub-emitter. As you can see, it shows up here. Let's change this to dust. Because what this is going to be is this is going to be a little dust cloud that is going to appear when the bomb impacts with the ground. Now as you can see, it's already doing almost what we want. It's facing the screen. And you got to be careful when you're having sub-emitters, make sure you've got the right particle system highlighted. So for stop lifetime, let's drop this down to like 2. Duration 2. Let's make start size a little bit smaller, but increase how many there are. If you notice, it's a burst. Their sub-emitters have to be bursts or else they don't work. So says the Unity tooltips anyways. And let's change the start color to like a gray. And we're going to also make it transparent. So to keep it from going white, you need to change the color over time, also to gray. It seems that if you don't change them both and then you use a transparency, it takes on like a whitish color, even if you have something behind it that isn't white for some reason. Now we're going to go to, actually we said we're going to make it transparent, so that's also in color over lifetime. Bring that down. Right, let's run that. It's a little bit hard to see because it's gray on gray. Okay, so we're just going to put in a little background here. Set this at a -1, that way the particles are on top of it. And we'll just expand this out to... We probably should tile it, but we'll just scale it out. Because I just want something basic. Yeah, it's like that. So we'll just copy that, paste it, and slide it over. So that way we can see the dirt explosions better. Okay, so the dirt is a little bit slow. So we'll go back to dust. And we will pick that speed up. We'll make it 1.5. But we don't want, but since we increase the speed, that means it'll get bigger unless you reduce the lifetime, which we will. And let's increase the size. There we go. Looks a little bit more dusty. And then at a certain point, like I said, it just becomes a matter of preference. Okay, so now we have dust instantiating when there's a collision. Now, because the bomb image is within a square and there's some space, it's actually not colliding with the center, it's colliding with the edge. So if you want, you can tweak that a little bit, and to do that you actually go to the main particle system, you go to the collision area, and you do radius scale, and you just like drop that to like 0.9, 0.8, and at a certain point your eye will actually catch the fact that the bomb is going through the ground. So that's more of a band-aid than anything else. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add the next sub-emitter. So that one was done on collision. This one will be done on depth. So we'll just click on the plus sign and a new one appears here. This new one will be burst. Again, it already starts off similar to what we want it to be. We want it to say last 1 second. Start lifetime, 1 second. We'll make start size like 0.3. We'll increase the emission. There we go. We'll also increase the... So start color, we'll just make it yellow to begin with. Color over lifetime. So I clicked there, and then I clicked on... So I clicked right there, then I clicked right there to bring up the color picker. Now we want this to change over time, but it's turning red too quickly, so what you can do is you can click here and also make this yellow, like we were saying about having the start color as well as the color over time match. So it's a little bit better, but it still changes kind of quickly for my liking. So if you click anywhere, it creates another keyframe, and then you can just set it to whatever you want. So we'll set this also to a yellow. So now it takes longer to turn red. And then if you click up here, that's where you do the transparency. And if I really wanted to make this fiery, you could add in the renderer section. This too uses a default particle, so you could replace this. You could replace it with, say, the default particle could be like something like looks more like a flame. But again, this is just meant to demonstrate how to use sub-emitters and the difference between collisions and deaths and that kind of thing. So let's run that. Okay, that's a little bit slow, but we're almost done. So again, make sure you've got the burst, because that's what we're working on now. We'll give that speed twice as much, but now we have to shrink the time or else it gets too big. We'll make that like 0.8. If it seems kind of random, it is. Like I said, a lot of this is trial and error. A lot of it's just the feel that you're trying to create and that you're trying to convey. Alright, so we're almost done. So let's kind of pause here and look at what we have. When the bomb collides with this, okay, it creates a dust cloud. So let's go up to the mean particle system. That is collision. So it's colliding and creating dust. When it reaches its life in a particle lasts 3 seconds. When it reaches that mark and the particle gets destroyed, then this sub-emitter is used. And this is a fiery burst. Now, if you wanted to, you could also do one for birth, but because you've got so many coming out, honestly, I didn't like it. I tried having like a puff of smoke or like a flare, and because you've got them all coming out from a very small area, they just overlap with each other. So maybe if you had, say you had like 6 different places here, each could shoot off one at a time, just one bomb at a time, then at that point you probably could do a birth emitter. I'll see if I can find another one that would make sense, another project that would make sense to use that so I could demonstrate it. But definitely I wanted to demonstrate the difference between a collision and an end-of-life one, end-of-life sub-emitter. And I think that takes care of just about everything else. And before we're done, let's just try something. Now, for this, we didn't do a color over lifetime. So let's put a dot there. And first, let's create a checkpoint here, so as it doesn't happen to the very end. And let's try, so we're going to click on the one at the end, we're going to click on this and we're going to change it red. Let's see if we can get the bomb to turn red just before it bursts. And actually this was paused, so I think I'm going to have to do it again. Because if it's running and you make a change, it's a temporary change. So yeah, so it didn't take. So we've got the main particle system. Going to click on color, going to create a keyframe. And then here, we're going to change that to red. And let's see how that looks. So yeah, the bomb turns red just before it bursts. So you could just keep working with this to maybe you want it to go orange first. So let's create a safe spot here where it's still white, and then change this instead to like an orange. So now it changes orange and then red. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so that's kind of getting an orange tint to it. That one's getting orange. And then goes red and bursts. So kind of a spur-of-the-moment thought, so you can work with that too to try to make it, again, giving feedback to the player that something's about to happen.